All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the Dallas Cowboys head coaching saga has already started with high drama. The Dallas Cowboys have formally denied the Chicago Bears' request to interview incumbent head coach Mike McCarthy, as Dallas still retains his rights until January 14th, which leaves us with a little bit less than a week until we see some finality with this story. And Jerry Jones, you are running out of time and you're running out of goodwill, especially with how you're handling even this situation. Let's get right into it, as Dallas Cowboys fans and media pundits alike are frustrated with Jerry Jones and how he's dealing with Mike McCarthy. According to Diana Rossini on Pardon My Take, and when talking about Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys, she says, quote, "I think the chances of him staying in Dallas are fair. Like, I think that could happen. Look, I know that they did a little bit of work on some head coaches behind the scenes over the last few weeks, so it wouldn't shock me if they also move on. I just don't like how they're going about their business, how they're just kind of hanging him out to dry right now, trying to figure out what he's going to do next. This entire year was really hard if you're him, of not knowing what's going to be next. Look, I think if Mike McCarthy does wind up moving on, or Dallas, Jerry says, yeah, we're going to go in a different direction, I think 100% he has a good shot at getting the Chicago Bears job." Okay, so even while not getting to interview him, it seems like Chicago may be willing to slow play their head coaching search so they make sure they get the right guy. And I think Mike McCarthy honestly would be a really, really good fit for the Chicago Bears. They have a young quarterback. Mike McCarthy is known as a developer of quarterbacks, regardless of how any of us may feel. That's his reputation around the league, so there must be something to it. And I think that with just all those weapons there with Chicago, it would be an easy transition for Mike McCarthy, and he honestly would be going to a better situation there than he is with Dallas, because again, you don't have a quarterback as proven as a Dak Prescott, but you do have a young quarterback that was a #1 overall pick, plenty of receiving weapons, a decent run game, and you just have some holes to fill, and maybe the McCaskies will be a little bit easier to deal with than Jerry Jones. I doubt it. Chicago has been a dumpster fire as well for a reason. They've been a dumpster fire even longer than the Cowboys for a reason, y'all. So I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, I don't know if that's a much better situation. There may not be a moment where the grass is necessarily greener. The concrete may be harder and colder in Chicago, but the grass damn sure ain't greener in Chicago than it is in Texas. But as it pertains to just the psychology behind how the Cowboys are actually moving, how they're treating their employees essentially is what this is. I don't like it either. If they're not planning on re-signing Mike McCarthy, and that's why I think this move all but guarantees that Mike McCarthy will be back as the Dallas Cowboys head coach, probably for the remainder of Dak Prescott's contract, because we would have to be fools to think that he would come back to Dallas on a 1-year deal or even a 2-year deal. I'm not sure I see even a 2-year deal getting agreed upon if I'm Mike McCarthy, because that's still not really any job security, and that man does have a family as well. But as far as the psychology of that, yeah, the Cowboys are definitely running out of goodwill with, I think, everyone involved. I think we all can kind of take our fan hats off for a little bit, take our disdain for Mike McCarthy away, and look at this in a vacuum and say, bro, this is just on a human level, this is just not good business right here. Y'all should have been and had a decision for this man, especially seeing that he had to play an entire season or coach an entire season, essentially not knowing his future and not really knowing how he can get another contract or how that's going to go. That's ridiculous to not still have an answer ready for this man at the conclusion of that season that you just made him coach like that. I think at this point, there is a lot to the idea that Mike McCarthy could feel so disrespected with how the Cowboys have handled this whole situation that he himself may not even want to come back. Because remember, there's two sides to this. It's not just whether the Cowboys want to bring Mike back, it's whether Mike wants to come back to the Cowboys. And while Jerry's taking his time and trying to drum up media suspense, he could be screwing the organization right now, because what happens if Mike McCarthy gets some salty feelings and then we take a look around and we see other teams are already operating like professional football organizations, and you see that Ben Johnson is having interviews with the Raiders and Patriots on Friday and then the Bears and Jaguars on Saturday, and there's no Cowboys on this list at all. And then you look around and you see, oh no, Mike Vrabel is interviewing for the New England Patriots head job. He might end up going there. You look around and you see, oh no, Bill Belichick is going to the University of North Carolina. You look around and you see, oh, all I really have left are guys that teams probably aren't really ready to take chances on, and a Brian Flores or even a John Gruden, which I think if any team takes a chance on a John Gruden, I think the Cowboys would be the team to take a chance on John Gruden. Remember, outside of his history, remember what Jerry's history is. Remember some of the things that Jerry has been saddled with. Remember some images Jerry has been caught in outside of Arkansas, looking at some other colored kids and looking at them like, hey, why you coming to our school? So if John Gruden would get a second chance anywhere, it would definitely be under Jerry Jones. I'm just saying, y'all. So maybe those are some of the type of coaches that the Cowboys have looked into, maybe a John Gruden or a Marvin Lewis. But at that point, when you start naming those type of guys, you might as well keep Mike McCarthy here, because there's something to be said for continuity. Yes, John Gruden may have a better offensive scheme, because I do think that John Gruden is probably a better offensive mind than a Mike McCarthy. Personally, I do. But continuity, the continuity that's already in place, the players want to play for Mike McCarthy, or maybe they're just comfortable with Mike McCarthy. I think it could be a little bit of both. Maybe they like playing for the guy, but maybe they also are just comfortable with his coaching style, and they kind of know what they expect from the guy as well. So if people just don't like change, it could be a little bit of that going on as well. But just overall, you might as well keep Mike McCarthy once you start getting into some of those retread names like a Marvin Lewis and a John Gruden and some of these other guys, or even a Brian Flores. I'm just not sure how a Brian Flores type of mentality would mesh with a Jerry Jones or anybody like that, right? And I don't think Jerry's going to go out and get like a first-time head coach, especially one that's not super publicized like a Ben Johnson. I think if there's a first-time head coach Jerry Jones hires in this hiring cycle, it's Ben Johnson. If it's not Ben Johnson, then I 100% think that you're going to see Mike McCarthy back, or we're going to end up getting a retread, because Jerry's going to want someone that he can say they know how to win a Super Bowl, right? So this is entering treacherous waters, because Jerry could be trying to slow play Mike McCarthy, but end up leaving himself with limited options as well if Mike McCarthy decides, hey, I'm finally going to take control of the situation and I'm going to take control of my own future. No, I don't want to come back and coach for the Cowboys. And since you denied me my interview request, I'm not going to tell you this until it's almost time for my contract to be completely up on January 14th. And by then, who knows what other moves could have been made in the NFL by then, y'all. Other coaches could have been hired. Anything could have happened by then. So Jerry has to get up off his hands. He's going to have to make a move, because otherwise we're going to go from a lame duck head coach to being a lame duck organization that's scrambling, looking for a head coach for this organization. And that's not even the only question. You're not even just looking at a Mike McCarthy. Given the comments made by Micah Parsons about a Mike Zimmer, you may actually be having to find a new defensive coordinator, and guys like Robert Saleh are already being interviewed for their jobs by the San Francisco 49ers. So not only could you be missing out on premium head candidate options by taking your time, but you could be missing out on a replacement for Mike Zimmer, because it's very possible that Mike Zimmer doesn't want to come back, especially if the circumstances aren't exactly what he would want them to be. Remember, he's getting married, and even Michael himself said he may be ready to ride off into the sunset if the situation ain't what he wanted to be. So there's a lot of questions surrounding the Dallas Cowboys right now, and the Joneses are once again taking their time. And I think everyone can agree that this is just frustrating, the way that they drag their feet with pretty much everything, every order of business they drag their feet with, and it's just becoming very tiring to deal with as a Cowboys fan. And I understand the complete lack of morale and the lack of, honestly, motivation to cheer this team on that the fan base is experiencing right now, because the Joneses make it very hard. And we have Micah Parsons out here being very excited. We're going to talk about that on another show. We have Micah Parsons out here making promises of holding trophies next season. And man, it's just stuff like this makes you really lose hope, especially when it shouldn't take this long, and we should be going on to our next order of business. Jerry, please stop trying to be the media darling. Please, man. And we still same old cow.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.